So you just bought the Boss RC-600, or maybe you're thinking about buying one, and you want to figure out how you can really use this thing to its full potential. Specifically, you want to figure out how to use it with your band or just other musicians in general. Today we're going to talk about how to do just that. So let's get into it. If you're new here, my name is AJ and my band is called SHAKEOUT. We're a two-piece alt punk band that utilizes live looping in all of our songs. So if you're into rock music, gear, or just the general shenanigans of being in a rock band, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. So to start this off, I will say that I've used several looper pedals over the years to accomplish live looping with my band. If you want the general breakdown of how to accomplish this using whatever looper pedal, I made a video a while back that talks about it. However, today's video, we're gonna specifically discuss how to do this with the Boss RC-600. But before we get into the exact settings of the pedal, I wanna quickly just talk about how I use looping with my band. A lot of people think of live looping as this solo musician thing. Oftentimes you'll see a musician kind of building out and adding layers before they even start a song. So you might see them start with a percussion part and then add some chords or maybe a vocal loop. However, for me, since my band is only two musicians, I actually use the looper pedal as a way to kind of fill out the gaps of all the musicians that I don't have playing with me. I like to write my songs around the idea that I can use my looper pedal to perform it live and fill in those gaps. Not feel like I have to build some big thing before the song even actually starts. So for example, I never will put a lead guitar part in to a song unless I've already played the rhythm part somewhere else in the song. Because I need to know that I can loop the rhythm first before I can play over it. The general point that I'm trying to make here is that when you have other musicians around you, you can actually use a looper pedal in different ways, because it's not just you and the pedal. So let's talk about the most important thing when using a looper pedal with other musicians, and that is to make sure that the loops are in sync with everyone. Especially if you're a smaller musician that plays small clubs, bars, basements, you know that you can't always rely on the monitoring system in the venue. So in order to make this happen, it's really important, just like when people use backing tracks, that you have a click track that's linked up to the loops so that everyone can play along to the click track to ensure that everyone's in time with the loops. So let's hop over to my pedal board and check out the exact settings in the RC-600 to make this happen. So first things first, let me just say that we're gonna use the internal rhythm track inside the pedal as our click track. We're gonna sync up the loops to that click and then send that click to the rest of our band to make sure that everyone is playing in time with the loops. So how I do it is I set a different patch for each song in my set, and the tempos are all kind of preset within that patch. However, if you wanted to set up like a tap tempo or something so that you could just do it on the fly and keep one preset open in the RC-600, you can also do that. All right, so hopefully you can see the screen, but basically to do this, you're gonna hit this loop button up at top. And then it says track 1. You're gonna have to set this individually for all of the tracks that you wanna record on. But for right now, we'll just click on this track 1. So I keep everything here at default, reversed one shot, the pan is centered, the play level is at 100. You can totally just keep that all at default. Moving over, start mode immediate, dub mode is overdub, and I leave the input effects on. I think that's all default as well. Here is the really important part though. So I have play mode is multi, measure, we'll come back to this in 1 second, but this loop sync option, that is what you want to make sure is on. So you can turn that on or off. We need to make sure that that is on. And the reason for that is that the loop sync does two things. It either syncs the loop to the internal rhythm track is what we need it to do, or if you're looping kind of just freely, it'll sync the loops on your pedal together. So definitely make sure that your loop sync is on. And this part gets a little tricky because the next thing on the menu is called tempo sync. And you'd think that you want that on, but for some reason I've had a lot of issues with having that on. For some reason for me, it tends to like mess up half the time when I have that on. So I have always found that keeping tempo sync off is my best option because the loop sync already kind of holds everything in place with the rhythm track. And I know that in general that I'm gonna play in time with that rhythm track. So yeah, for me, I keep tempo sync off. You can play around with that, but like I said, I've had a lot of issues. And that's pretty much all you really need to set up as far as the loop settings go. If you look at some of the other loop settings, like in record, I actually keep this all pretty much at default, including the quantize. I just keep that off. Just that loop sync option keeps it in time with the rhythm track, so nothing else is really, really needed. You can mess with that if you want, but I found these to be the best settings for me. So now let's move into how you set up your rhythm track and sending the click out to all your bandmates. So to get to the rhythm menu, you're gonna hit the loop button twice, and then there's the option for rhythm. I go to genre, I go to guide, because guide generally just gives you the kind of click sounds, the simple sounds. So you can set up your pattern for 2-4 or 3-4 or 4-4, kind of depends on your songs. I'm gonna come back to that in a few minutes though. I use variation C on the studio kit, and that is just like the pretty regular click sound. I keep the intro record off, the triggering off. I start it when the loop starts, and the beat is 2-4 for me. And I keep the vary change at measure. But other than that, it's pretty much like the default settings. It's really just about setting it to guide on Studio Kit C to get that click sound. So now we gotta set this up so we can send the click out to our bandmates, but not out to the audience. So what you have to do is use the routing inside the Boss RC-600 to send the click track out of one of the outputs that you're not sending to your amp or the PA or anything. So how you're gonna set that up is you're gonna go to Menu, Output, and then you're gonna go to Routing, Input/Rhythm. And right here you see that each screen, so this is the main outputs. This just tells you what's going to come out of the main outputs. This tells you what's going to come out of sub 1 outputs, sub 2, the headphone output, and so on. What I do is I set it up so that the rhythm track, so the click, comes out of the headphone output, so it's under phones, and I don't send anything else out under that same output, but you totally could if you wanted the loops to also come out of the headphone output. I just prefer it to be just the click track. And then make sure that you have rhythm out set on output as well. What we just basically did was we made sure that the click track is only coming out of the headphone output and it's not coming out of either the main or the sub. And you just have to make sure that you shut it off on all of the other ones. So now that you have that set up, you need to make sure that you have a way to send the headphone output of the Boss RC-600 out to your bandmates. Personally, I use one of these X5 U4 wireless in-ear monitoring systems with a 1/4-inch adapter. And basically you can set up 4 wireless packs to one of these receivers. So I basically just plug this into the headphone output of my pedal, and then I send out the click to the wireless pack to my drummer and myself so that we can both hear the click. Alternatively though, you could just take a 1/4-inch cable and plug it into like a little mixer and plug headphones there, or even like a headphone amplifier that just allows you to plug multiple headphones into it and gets the signal from the click. That part is kind of up to you to figure out how to do, but basically you just want the whole band to be able to hear the click track that's now coming out of that headphone output on the Boss RC-600. So now that you know how to set up the RC-600 to use with your band, using the internal click track and just playing with the loop sync, let's quickly talk about some of the problems that I've faced over the years, because you definitely probably will face some of these as well. Let me just start by saying that practice and rehearsal with your band with this setup is absolutely crucial. Even though now that the loops are locked into that click track, you still have to hit everything on time as close as possible, because what it really is doing is just locking it to the nearest click. So if you hit even closer to one click than another, it might mess up the loops. And you really just have to kind of get the muscle memory of this all down. Anyone here, and I'm sure that's most people that are watching this video that has used a looper before, knows that it's basically like adding another instrument into your setup. It really is just another thing you have to learn how to kind of get the muscle memory down for. So practice is crucial if you want to use a looper with your band. Another thing that I've noticed with the Boss RC-600 that I've had a few issues with is that if you don't start the loop at the top of the measure, so for example, you can see at the top of the measure, it blinks red instead of green. If you don't start recording there, sometimes the loop gets a little out of time and weird. So there's a few workarounds for this. What I've done is that I've set all my songs that are in 4/4 to 2/4, because then at least the start of the measure happens every other beat and there's like a little bit less room for error. But other than that, you can also make sure that you have the accent on the click so that you really do know when the top of the measure is. I will say that there has been times where I've hit it and it wasn't at the top of the measure and everything worked fine, but there also has been times where I hit it on beat 2 or beat 3 and it kind of just records a little bit weird and doesn't work exactly right. So I recommend trying to just record at the top of the measure at all times. I hope this video was helpful to some of y'all that already own the Boss RC-600 or maybe considering buying one. If you like this video, please consider hitting that like button as well as subscribing, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions or even just anything to add. Happy looping. Cheers.